Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to the DMP committee for November the 10th on a beautiful 20-degree Indian summer afternoon here in the beautiful Renfrew County. Welcome to everyone. Roll call, Evelyn, has been taken.
Yes, and we have quorum.
Okay, I'll ask, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and then in general nature thereof for any of the items that we're going to discuss today? Having seen none, adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting distributed of October the 13th. Any errors or omissions to the minutes as distributed? Seeing none, I need a motion, please. Janice, seconded by Jeb. All in favor? It's carried. We do have two delegations, and I'll call on who's going to introduce them. Alistair, are you going to introduce your first delegation, or Craig?
I'll do the first one, Sharon.
Okay, Craig, go right ahead then.
Yeah. So the first one is Ms. Tchalla Brecken. So I can see Tchalla on the screen now, and Tchalla and I have worked together over several years, I suppose, at this point, with the Renfrew County Local Immigration Partnership. We have begun a discussion with Tchalla and her crew as prompted by Mayor James Brew at North Agona Wilberforce, who is quite engaged on local immigration in the future and part of their own strategic plan. Of course, Alistair and the Economic Development crew continue with our workforce development initiatives, including some newcomer attraction and job fairs that we've been to and told this committee and this council about in Mississauga and Peel region over the last few years. So this is a nice, not a bookend, but another little part in our story that Tchalla is going to bring us up to speed on where the LIP is these days and how we can be involved in future development of programming in Renfrew County. So with that, Chair, I'll turn it over to Tchalla.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm so delighted to be here today, and thank you for the warm welcome, Craig. It's so nice to have a colleague in the room that was definitely a founding member of our local immigration partnership here in Renfrew Lanark. But I would be remiss to note my colleague, my absolute right-hand woman at the local immigration partnership here. Also with us today is Maria Hughes, joining me for the finale of my presentation today. Maria is a newcomer to Canada from the Netherlands and has joined our project team back in 2018. Actually, she joined the staff at the local immigration partnership, allowing me to move on to one of our program spin-off projects named the Community Settlement Initiative. So Maria and I are a dynamic duo, and certainly we are here to both represent the two sectors of work that we are involved in, which is the research, planning, and advocacy for settlement outcomes in our area, and also my role now, which is about preparing the community to be welcoming and well able to serve the newcomers that we do welcome here. So thank you so much for the introduction. And Maria will join in to the finale of my presentation today, or our presentation today. So first of all, I'd like to say that I'm a good old Deep River girl, and I have long roots and history here in the Valley. And so it's just wonderful to work with a newcomer to Canada, to have this, sort of what's it like to be a local and what's it like to be someone new to the area as well. I have a deep history with my grandfather working with AACL. Back in 47 through to modern days, where many of my family members still live in Deep River and in Laurentian Hills. So I'm so glad to see some of our local politicians here on this call. Yes, exactly. Thanks for the thumbs up, Jed. So ultimately, I am here because I love small communities. I only work in small communities, and I am rural to the bone. I believe in the strength and resiliency and resourcefulness of small communities. And so my work in the sector of immigration has been one of exploration and investigation of how small communities will take advantage of this wonderful asset that Canada brings, which is immigration through population growth and skilled workers shortage filling, and absolutely a strengthening of our diversity and social fabric as a country. And so my work really began with establishing the local immigration partnership. So if you're not familiar with this type of project, it's very straightforward. It's about 2 counties. So we do serve Lanark County as well as Renfrew County. And the idea is we lever federal money from the Department of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada to conduct the research, planning, advocacy, and action for improving settlement outcomes for new Canadians living here. So settlement is the process of immigration that occurs after we land, right? That part of getting to know the community, establishing your housing, getting a job, and being retained into the community long term. And so we have a rich history of this in Renfrew County back, you know, in our originating days through different communities like the Scottish community, the Kashubians in the Wilno area, all sorts of different communities coming through. And now we have had an experience of low recent immigration. The smaller communities of Canada are struggling to attract new Canadians, where we see them landing primarily in our largest cities, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and often Ottawa, Calgary. But we need to do a little bit of special work to be able to draw these individuals to our communities, because we know in Canada that population growth is nearly 100% derived by immigration. And that if small communities are able to lever some of those additional residents, we will have workforce solutions, economic development, increasing social fabric, and of course, a sense of belonging and sharing our neighborly way of life in Renfrew County with more people. And so that is the sort of reason to be involved with the local integration partnership. But we do this work through 2 committees, one with Renfrew, one with Lanark, and now this model has evolved to sort of working group pillar-based community development activities, which I will let Maria speak to at the end. But what I want you to know is that in the beginning of 2012, we developed a strategy, a strategic plan for how we will collaborate with many sectors on improving the settlement outcomes of new Canadians. And this deeply means their sense of belonging, their ability to access relevant services, capable services, and also the feeling of being able to acquire a job and to be retained in that economic opportunity. And so when we think about this strategic plan, there was one particular approach that has really quite produced some excellent results for us. It's called service provider readiness. And this model of actually Craig helped us to build this all, was about really sinking into, if we have a low lived experience of newcomers living here, how will we get to know their unique needs? How will we serve them at the same level as a Canadian-born client? How will we get to know the value behind someone who's foreign trained? So all of these questions really require a capacity improvement across the board. So what we learned was that many agencies, employers, community groups like Rotary, Kiwanis, even rec groups were so interested in welcoming new Canadians, but really we're left with more questions than answers on how to necessarily do that. And so this sprung out 2 or actually 3 different funding agreements between the Red Cross, the Ontario Ministry of Immigration formally, and now another research project called the Community Settlement Initiative, which is the project I lead right now, that's all about doing this, growing the capacity of individuals who are serving, working with, or embracing newcomers in their community so that we can work in cultural competence together, we can leverage the gift of diversity, and that we can share on a 2-way street what life is like here and how we can embrace difference and culture together. So we've had some excellent success. This is a beautiful research innovation stream federal funding project. And we're located right downtown Pembroke at the Muse. If you've driven by, you might have seen our logos, the Community Settlement Initiative. But we are working right now with employers, service groups or service agencies and community groups to coach them and train them on moving the needle on their capacity to serve newcomers and to work together or to be an excellent neighbor. It could be something as simple as knowing how to prepare a halal dish for your local neighbor that's coming over for a barbecue, or maybe you are an agency who's learning how to review their interview questions to ensure that your recruiting is very inclusive. So we have now served over 500 clients in the Renfrew Lanark area, and we've developed a number of data points and metrics that suggest that we are onto something here with respect to serving the community and coaching in co-development our collective need to welcome, or our collective desire to welcome efficiently, so that we can retain any new talent that we're able to attract. And so this sort of leads me to current day, where we know we are not growing in the working age population in Renfrew County. We know that we have an attraction, path ahead of us of how will we grow the population, how will we attract new residents, and specifically deal with our workforce shortages. Okay, so this is an absolute target of the Community Settlement Initiative and of the Local Immigration Partnership to assist our partners, such as municipalities, counties, service agencies, whomever, that really see themselves in a leadership position to contribute. And so when we start to develop these concrete attraction strategies and retention strategies, we know that leadership at the political level is essential. And this is essential for three big reasons. The first is that the political will behind commitment to the local immigration partnerships really inspires action. Commitment and coming forward really can say to the community that we are in the business of welcoming, we are in the business of diversity, and we absolutely do care about these issues. We also know that a collective voice of elected officials coming together represents many voices of the community. And so when we're talking about grant writing and getting support dollars to initiate some of these concrete action items, your voice is so critical as a representative of your community, as an elected official. And the third and probably most important reason for leaders and elected officials to become involved is because of the leadership by example, that we will demonstrate through participation to our communities that we do know that immigration is an ideal place to operate in, that of course we are a welcoming community, and that we must build our own capacity to be able to really grab that opportunity. So this does connect deeply with your mandate at this committee level, because any work that we do collectively with attraction requires an equal response on the retention side, which means housing, development, service acquisition, all of the training programs and things that we would need to invest in to really raise the bar as a welcoming community involves inclusive housing. It involves the development of land so that it's culturally appropriate, so that we're really building the structure for the population we hope to attract, or that we aim to attract. And so this really brings us to this committee level, not only to tell you about the projects and about our research initiatives that are driving the data that we need to form these solutions, but also to paint this picture of every sector is required to lean in to be able to do this work. And I've had the great fortune of working with Alistair and his team in various capacities through the LIP over the years. And we know that we have something to lever here, something to move forward with. And so I will ask Maria to close this presentation with her call to action, because her perspective on the LIP is that she has the next 4 years of federal funding to really create some critical change and leadership for Renfrew County, so that we can be the trailblazers in rural settlement and immigration and be the leaders in Canada of how this can be done. So I will pass this now to Maria for her words to finish the presentation. Thank you so much. You're muted, Maria.
That's right, the mute button. Thank you, Tchalla, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all of you for allowing us to be a small delegation on a very big topic. The Local Immigration Partnership, I have been managing, being the project manager for the past 2 years. And we have slowly grown into a new way of approaching our work. We've been in existence for a long time. Tchalla has preceded me for 7 years at least. And the federal government saw fit that we would receive another 5 years of funding as of last April 1st to continue our work in Renfrew and Lanark. They consider this very important for rural regions because populations are aging, youth migration, out-migration is still happening. And as a matter of fact, our population growth is very low or even stagnant in some places. So the federal government very much sees immigration as the best resource for rural and smaller communities to grow their populations, to have people, to attract people to come to live here, and to make this a two-way process, which is what successful integration really is. As an immigrant myself, I know it takes two. It takes the immigrant to make that huge step and commitment to come and adapt to life in Canada and to be a solid participating member of the community. And B, it takes the community to open their arms and welcome and present our welcome to any newcomer, be it an immigrant newcomer or a newcomer who's lived or is already a third generation of Canadian. And so this two-way process is really what needs to happen to make any kind of attempt that we implement on attracting newcomers to come to our rural area and fill the needed jobs, especially skilled labor shortages, and come and live with us as a resident with our community, settle here, bring their families, raise their children, buy their house, and enjoy the outdoors that we can offer and be committed members of our community. It takes a two-way street. And for us at the LIP, that means not only are we doing a lot of research to underscore the need for immigrants for us to attract immigrants to be a viable rural and a viable rural area economically. We also need to make sure that we have the capacity to be a welcoming community. And that takes leadership. And it takes primarily leadership from community leaders like you, who have, not only are you representing a lot of people, like everybody in the county, you also carry a lot of weight in the communities. And to partner with us, work with us, assist us or direct us in any way in this endeavor to bring more people to Renfrew County. We have set up a number of committees to make this happen. We used to function with 2 large committees, one in Lanark and one in Renfrew, as Tchalla mentioned, but we have moved to working committees that will focus on particular pillars that we're working on. And one of those committees is a municipal engagement working group. And that would be a working group that we would love to have your support in, to make sure that not only are the communities heard, their concerns heard, that you can identify what you might need to be able to become a welcoming community and receive newcomers, to speak for your employers in your region, the people in your region. It would make a huge difference for us to move forward and make some and have some action happen on this. We've talked about this for a number of years, but we are right now poised to make a series of actions and find some funding to implement a secondary migration strategy, as we call it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. That's a good presentation, obviously a good presentation. Certainly a little bit close to my heart. You probably tell from my accent. I wasn't born in this part of the world. I'm from away, as the saying goes, a long further east than that from Scotland. And I immigrated here 55 years ago. So yeah, I can understand some of the challenges that you're talking about. I remember my dad telling me, when you immigrate to Canada, son, just remember one thing: they speak English, and that's the only similarity that you have when you arrive in Canada is the English language in certain parts. And I found out that obviously there's another language that's spoken, but it was quite the challenge when you arrive as a green immigrant and you land in my particular case in Montreal, and now what? So anyway, I'll open up for questions of the presenters, and then we can get into some of the details. Go. Anyone wish to? Warden, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. And again, Tchalla, excellent presentation. I've had the opportunity to listen to you a number of times now, and always present with much passion. What I would ask is if you could send to us the terms of reference for this municipal working committee that you want to create, just so that it's very clear going forward what the ask is of anybody that joins the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That gives us an idea of what that that committee is all about. It's important. Open it up again. Any questions? Peter.
Yes, thank you. A very nice presentation, and I know. I think we've been waiting for a few years to get a linkage. I know that when we had our discussions about our strategic plan, we brought it up, but it didn't quite make it in. But we were assured it was under the community development part, and so I'm glad that we finally had you here. I know that members of this committee and have raised this issue probably over the last 7 years a number of times. So that's good to know. So I'm curious. Do you have a strategic plan or a business plan for the the next 5? Because I gather that you have 5 years funding as of April 1st. So that presupposes that you have a plan or a program that you're rolling out. Is that something you can share with us as well, so that we can, as we work through budget for the next 4 years, but then also work through various departmental work plans, if there's any kind of synchronicity that we can achieve?
Yes, we do have a program. That's what we had to submit to be able to get the funding. And we basically are looking at different sectors in the community. First of all, the Local Immigration Partnership is a multi-sectoral partnership. We have certainly a working group that looks into youth engagement. That means looking into education or anywhere else youth gathers and could learn a little bit about what immigration is all about and why it is important, and how to be welcoming to a newcomer in your school. We also would like to give them some information about cultural differences and how you can value those, and how important it might be in your life to get to know someone from another culture, and how much fun it could be. So there is that youth angle. There is an employer angle. Absolutely, because we have heard from so many employers that they can't fill the jobs they need filled, and that they have a huge shortage of skilled labor, and that some employers even say, we don't know if we can actually stay in Renfrew at this rate. So we've heard that loud and clear, and we have been in contact with our partners across the country, but also our partners who work in large cities, who say we do have a community of newcomers that is either unemployed or underemployed. They are working at jobs that are not commensurate with their skills and education and experience, and would like to maybe look for a job that gives them that satisfaction and where they can really apply all their knowledge and skills. So we have been listening to that for a number of years, and have put in place a number of programs and strategies that we could help this need for employers to be connected with urban immigrant newcomers who might want to come to a rural area. And not all, many newcomers to Canada come from small areas in their own countries. So it is not, it's not far-fetched for them to consider a community like Renfrew or anywhere else in the county. And so that's one strategy. So I've mentioned two. There is the municipal engagement strategy, because without your leadership and without communities looking at their leaders to become welcoming, you can attract all the newcomers, immigrant newcomers you want, but if they don't feel welcome, they'll leave. And we don't succeed in what we desperately would like to see happen in Renfrew County. We also have a mandate to engage with Indigenous people because of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action number 93, which asks that newcomers to Canada will learn the full history of full Canadian history, including that of Indigenous peoples in this land. So that's another angle. And we have, of course, a primary pillar of our work is research. That is, raw research into data, looking at statistics, see what's happening in our community. We actually discovered that the 2016 census shows us that we have a net deficit of immigrants in this community. Like, people have actually left more than they came here. And that's alarming. And we would really like to engage in trying to rectify that. So that gives you some idea of the directions we work in.
I'll also add that there's a pillar of work around anti-racism, and Maria is chairing a task force. Actually, Cameron Montgomery, who is our research assistant at the project, she's a business owner as well in Pembroke, and she is chairing a new anti-racism committee task force who will be looking at strategies around directly addressing racism in our community.
I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, ladies, but we're in the process of a twinning exercise with Renfrewshire in Scotland, whereby we get together and on a whole host of areas, including tourism, economic development, employment, and things of that nature. And because of COVID, it hasn't moved forward at this point in time, but we're still anxious to move that forward. And I say that for a reason, because, and I will use my own experience as an immigrant that came to Canada. Before I came to Canada, I attended a seminar from some folks who came from Canada to where I was in Renfrewshire or in Glasgow, and sat down and talked to them about the possibilities of immigrating to Canada and what did Canada have to offer me as an individual. And it was very, very useful to me to have these folks over there in Scotland talking about it. So that's one aspect of what I see as a twinning exercise that could be a bit of a benefit for a two-way street. And that's what really this twinning exercise is kind of all about. One of the areas that I'm interested in, you must work very closely with the Canadian Immigration Group. And I say that also from my point of view, because they did a bit of an analysis of my background as to where my skills would be, and tried to put me in an area, an environment, and that would be best suited from a job point of view, and an area that would be compatible with my background. And again, it was very useful. I ended up in Oshawa, not in the big city of Toronto, where everybody seems to migrate to. So, and that's because of the particular background that I had. So do you still work with immigration, and does immigration sort of review your background of folks that are coming to Canada? And do you play any kind of role in that at all?
I'll tackle that one if you want, Maria. I'll let you chime in here when I miss some points, but certainly the formal system of immigration is a totally separate department than settlement. So the legal pathways that a person would travel to have their documents signed and their permits and their visas and then eventually permanent residency acquired, that whole process is a separate division of Immigration Canada than we are funded by, which is the post-arrival. However, what you're talking about here, Chairman, is pre-arrival information. So the government works on a regular basis informing newcomers about life in Canada prior to arriving directly from overseas or from another country. So, for example, a woman that we have interviewed recently talked about attending 5 workshops that were government funded, all about the banking system here, expectations of weather, these kinds of real basic things that are very different within country to country. And so that kind of information is offered through NGOs, typically, who are funded by the federal government in order to offer these. So that particular project, Canadian Immigration Group, is that a name? If that's a name of a project, that no longer exists, according to my knowledge of several decades in the industry. But I think what we do see now is NGOs being funded for pre-arrival information services, and then we have the immigration system taking over, and then once individuals land, it's the settlement sector that takes over. And so, and they may have a journey of immigration paperwork and that kind of thing to follow through for, especially if they're an international student or someone with a temporary work visa, these kinds of things. So the channels do cross at some points, but ultimately, what we're talking about here, this pre-arrival mechanism, when you were brought from abroad, the preparation tools, we're actually trying to develop that for secondary migrants. So what's it like to go urban to rural? So there's a very big difference between Mumbai to Toronto, and then there's a very big difference between Toronto to Oshawa, and then there's also a very big difference between Oshawa to Petawawa, for example. So we're really trying to hone in on the pre-arrival information and familiarity building, relationship building that reflects that information, the this and that of city to rural, or the realities of there's no public transport, but we have beautiful geography and opportunities to car share and these kinds of things. So it's sort of this like same level of information. So we do work with the immigration side, especially at conferences and education opportunities, but the whole goal of our work is really to lever the opportunity of secondary migration, because primary immigration is difficult, expensive, and long. It takes years to get a primary landing to occur now in Canada, especially during COVID. That's gone up way long. And as you know, the government commits to bringing in 300,000 immigrants every year, that system and process is not quick. And the express entry system that they use to bring economic class immigrants into Canada does score individuals based on language, skills, credentials, these kinds of things, but never have they been able to develop a direct immigration system that targets an individual's characteristics and the needs of that particular community. So that matching has not yet occurred in the immigration formal system. So we are proposing that we have an opportunity after landings occur to shuffle that deck and to look at better matching post-arrival, because that's an easier, less barrier-centric way of bringing the right talent into the right area without having to deal with all of the lengthy time, cost, and competency of the direct immigration system.
Thank you for that. Open it up again for any questions of our presenters. Chad?
Thank you, Chair. I have to say something about Tchalla. Actually, welcome back to Laurentian Hills. I've known Tchalla, her parents actually longer than I have known Tchalla, but it's really good to see you making the presentation today. One of the questions I have is, how have you been, is there any idea as to, with respect to the jobs that you know, where you've brought immigrants in, is there any, do you have any success stories that you might be able to share with us on, you know, with respect to moving people into the county?
Oh my goodness, do I have a success story for you. So I would like to share with you a small story. And you know what, I will send Evelyn, thank you Evelyn, by the way, for organizing my position in this meeting today, but I will send a link to a video that was done. So we had the great fortune of working with private sponsors of refugees in Renfrew County. Actually, between the two counties, there were 17 volunteer groups that mobilized, an incredible community response, well over $500,000 of private donations, and easily 250 individuals participating in Renfrew County alone. And so I had the great fortune of interviewing every single one of these players, participating in their journey of settlement and welcoming refugees here. And although different groups experience different outcomes, what I will tell you, sir, is that there were some groups in this area who did such a phenomenal job of welcoming, supporting, hand-holding, navigating with these individuals, that they actually brought their government-assisted family members. So there are two channels of refugee intake: is private sponsorship, which is what happened in small communities, and then government assistance, which is that government channel of landing. You get a government flight and a government caseworker. These families actually felt so welcome and so part of the community so quickly that they had family members move out of the city into our small towns to be able to join in on that welcome and the services, you know. And we had volunteers, retired teachers teaching English in church basements, you know, offering friendship, kinship, you know. And one of the really interesting outcomes that really helped us to develop the funding that we got were these success stories. And one of them was so cool. This individual came from Syria. He was hired very soon into a production job, so at a local manufacturer, and it was a 12-hour shift. And his only goal after employment was to get his driver's license in Canada. He wanted to be able to drive himself to work and find that dignity of life and navigating the community on his own for his family. And yet after, you know, realizing that you had to pass a verbal test in English, he thought, man, I may never achieve that quickly, right? It will take time. And after a 12-hour shift, I don't know about you, but I don't want to learn English. So it's that idea of how will we balance all of this? So we learned that this individual was getting a ride to work every day by a local volunteer from the sponsorship group, 20 minutes twice a day to work. And so we actually paired our language coach with this volunteer driver, and we taught the driver how to teach this person English road cues and words and language, so that during their commute, so that one day he could take a verbal test and pass it. And that's exactly what happened. This man who was the driver became the teacher because he was cared and he loved him and he wanted to help him meet his goals, and they did it together. And this is like one of my favorite stories because it's such an expression of the willingness of a community volunteer paired with a little bit of coaching and help of how to be the most efficient helper. And then together, this man's goal of achieving a license and obtaining dignity and leadership for his family was the result. So, you know, if that's not a good success story, I'm not sure what is. So thank you for asking that, because, and we hope that this trend continues, you know, and the great work that Maria is doing, helping to pave the foundation for attraction, but more importantly, the structure for retention, that everybody in the community gets to lean in, right? And that we have an opportunity together to lean in and intentionally welcome people, open our social networks, prepare our agencies, be the municipality that attracts diversity, right? So this is a very holistic perspective when we think about this man's journey to achieving his family outcome. It takes a village, y'all.
Well, thank you very much, Maria and Tchalla. I appreciate that. Thank you. You're very enthusiastic about the work that you do, and it's nice to see. Thank you so much for being with us and presenting to this afternoon. And we look forward to the terms of reference as asked by the warden and every success going forward. Thank you for being with us and presenting today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll look forward to connecting.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll go to Alistair, I believe, and introduce our next presenter. Please, Alistair.
Thanks, Chair. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to introduce Mark Brew. And he'll do a thorough self-introduction when he gets started. But he's a vice president of our Ottawa Valley Tourist Association, our key partner in tourism marketing. and he is here today to share with you what our very dynamic board has, the path forward on looking at our destination, the Ottawa Valley. How do we develop it further and into the future, and basing our strategic plan on where we want the Ottawa Valley and Renfrew County to be in the tourism world. So really, without any further ado, Mark Brew.
Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alistair, for the introduction, and thank you to Tchalla and Maria for a great presentation. The passion you have for your project there is palpable. Congratulations on all your success. We're going to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for providing us the opportunity for the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association to present our new 3-year strategic plan to the Development and Property Committee. I believe Sean has a slide deck there. We will get that shared up right away. And I believe also that the plan has been provided to everybody for your enjoyment later on. So I will give you a kind of a brief overview of the plan and go from there. So my name is Mark Brew again, and I am the Vice President of the OVTA Board of Directors. I'm also the owner of Square Timber Brewing Company, proudly located here in sunny Laurentian Valley. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are meeting is located in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. We say miigwech to thank all Indigenous peoples for taking care of the land and sharing it with us. We are grateful for the opportunity to work in the community on this territory and express honor and respect. I would also like to say that I'm honored to be representing the whole OVTA Board of Directors. We have a great group and look forward to moving this plan ahead. We originally intended to get the strategic planning initiative underway in March, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, that was postponed. Following discussions with our consulting firm, MMGY Next Factor, and their recommendation to incorporate COVID recovery efforts, we decided to then launch the program in June. Our strategic planning process included the following initiatives: Destination Assessment Survey. This assessment takes the form of a 360-degree survey of key stakeholders in tourism, business, education, and government, who all find themselves impacted by the Ottawa Valley's ability to attract and inspire visitors to the region. One-on-one stakeholder interviews. Our consultants conducted 24 individual interviews with tourism operators, community leaders, and economic development officers. And visioning workshops. 2 workshops were conducted to validate the results of the survey, develop new vision, mission, and value statements, and set strategic priorities. Before I get to the new strategic plan, I'd like to highlight the results of our destination assessment survey and stakeholder interviews, as this information helped guide the discussions around our new strategic priorities. As mentioned, the destination assessment is a survey about the Ottawa Valley's ability to attract and inspire visitors to the region. The assessment measures the region against 20 variables related to destination strength and community alignment. The survey was circulated to all tourism stakeholders across Renfrew County, including operators, community leaders, municipally elected officials, and administration staff, including CAOs and economic development officers, regional tourism partners, and educational institutions. 478 individuals were asked to complete the survey, and we were pleased that we received a 30% response rate on 124 surveys. I would like to thank those that are in this meeting today for taking the time to respond back when the survey came about. The results were then analyzed and detailed into a diagnostics report and scenario plot, as seen here. Your next slide there, please, Sean. That one there, thank you. As you see there, the Ottawa Valley falls into the voyageur category and ranks slightly below the Canadian industry average under destination strength, but above the industry average under community alignment. Next slide, please. The assessment also breaks down the survey respondents to show how the various stakeholder groups rank the destination. As you can see there, all groups are fairly in line as it relates to the variable rankings. Next, the assessment further breaks down the relative importance and perceived performance of each variable within the destination strength and community alignment categories. As you see there, under destination, yeah, that's good. Under destination strengths, communication and internet infrastructure, attractions and entertainment, events and brand, rank as the most important elements. However, as you can see, the perceived performance tells a different story. Particularly, and not surprisingly, communication and internet infrastructure ranks the poorest out of all 10 variables in terms of performance. So in the easier terms, what do we find is important, and how is that translated into its actual performance? Next slide, please. Under community alignment, we see that economic development, funding support and certainty, regional cooperation, and hospitality culture rank as the most important elements. However, perceived performance ranks slightly different. In this case, funding support and certainty ranks the poorest in performance, although it should be clarified that this variable is strictly related to the OVTA's funding. Next slide, please. The assessment also asked a number of open-ended questions, including, as you see on the top, are there certain issues and/or opportunities that municipal governments in Renfrew County should address? Some of the highlights from those listed include downtown revitalization and storefront refurbishments, improvements to roads, broadband, cell phone coverage, and visitor services such as public washrooms and signage, as well as lobbying for tourism and recreation funding, just to name a few. Next slide, please. The second part of our planning process included one-on-one interviews with stakeholders. A total of 24 interviews were conducted with municipal economic development officers and CAOs, food and beverage providers, attractions and event organizers, accommodators, and various sector associations and clubs. These interviews provided stakeholders with an opportunity to have an open discussion with our consultants about, among others, the outlook for tourism over the next 3 years, the biggest challenges facing the Ottawa Valley, and or any specific issues related directly to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. As you can see that list, the comments cover a range of topics from marketing and product development to advocacy, infrastructure, and collaboration. There's a long list there, and I encourage everybody to read those closely in your future time. Next slide, please. The final step of our process included 2 visioning workshops with the Board of Directors, County of Renfrew staff, and the stakeholders. During the sessions, the group validated the assessment results and community feedback. We brainstormed and prioritized strategic objectives and developed a new vision and mission statement and values, which I would like to present to you now. The new vision statement for the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association is to share the Ottawa Valley's spirit with the world, which ties in nicely to our previous presenters that are bringing people from around the world. And our new mission statement is to elevate the quality of life in our community through tourism. Next slide, please. Our values include freedom, where people can feel free to express themselves, inclusiveness, all people should have an opportunity to thrive in our community. Community, it's our people that bring visitors back. Intentional, community is not something you have, it's something you do. And sustainability, responsible caretakers of our environment. Next slide, please. This is really the main page here of what the plan is and going over the next 3 years. Our 2021 to 2023 plan includes 4 new strategic objectives: strategic sales and marketing, collaborative destination development, inclusive community alignment, and sustainable organization. We realize that we have some big goals to accomplish over the next 3 years, and who knows what the ongoing pandemic may bring, but we are confident this plan will help guide the association, our industry, through recovery over the next 3 years. Some of these initiatives include, in the strategic and sales and marketing, a new website for the OVTA, and development of a motorized power sports strategy under our strategic sales and marketing. Under collaborative destination development, we are going to create and promote a culinary tourism strategy. I believe that's very important for our area, with lots of potential, and strengthen our advocacy efforts in key areas of tourism infrastructure, such as broadband and cell phone connectivity. Those are very important things when people come out to our area and are looking for directions on their phone and they're in the middle of out here and they can't connect to anything. Our community alignment, we are going to develop a resident engagement strategy and survey to better understand our local residents as tourists and strengthen our relationship with our Indigenous community. And lastly, under sustainable organization, we are going to develop a data collection strategy in order to have more up-to-date and relevant tourism numbers, and also ensure we have a full complement of staff in order to deliver on all these key initiatives. We are fortunate to have strong support and collaboration with partners such as the Development and Property Committee and County Council, the City of Pembroke, OVED Partners Group, and the Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization, which will assist us in achieving these objectives. One recent example is the COVID Business Development Fund, which the County of Renfrew and City of Pembroke made available this summer. I know many of our local tourism businesses, myself included, took advantage of this great program, and we are very grateful for the support. I would also like to acknowledge the continued support and collaboration from the Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization, who contributed financially towards the cost of our destination assessment and this new plan. This would not have been possible without them. In closing, on behalf of the OVTA board, I would like to thank the Development and Property Committee, County Council, and the City of Pembroke for the continued support of tourism in the Ottawa Valley. I would also like to thank the OVTA staff, Alistair, Melissa, and Helen, for all the great work they've done in this project. We all know that tourism is an important economic driver in Renfrew County. It's nice to know that it is recognized at this table also. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate that. Yes, you're absolutely right. Tourism is a pillar, one of the pillars of economic development within the County of Renfrew. And I know I ask Alistair on a regular basis, how many visitors have we had? And I look forward to the day when he says 2,100,000, and we're working towards that goal. So yeah, it is absolutely key to the growth and the quality of life that we enjoy here. It is a wonderful place, Renfrew County. There's no question about it. And sometimes, all too often, we live here and we don't see the trees for the forest. And but if we just step back a little bit and see some of the beauty that we have here, we don't have to take a second place or backseat to anyone anywhere in Canada. So to you and to the team that promotes tourism, the OVTA, a great job, and thank you for the work that you do. So with that, I'll open it up for questions of our presenter. Peter.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation and the providing us with the document. A little curious about the list of concerns about third slide in, which talked about funding. And so I thought that when we agreed to the new formula that sort of took the place of the annual budget debate and presentation and some of the guessing out of it, I thought that would have provided some more comfort to the board. Am I mistaking that comment, or could you fill me in on it, please?
I believe that slide, and Alistair, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that was a slide that reflected comments that we received during the survey. Correct, Alistair? And so, that's possibly a sentiment that is out there, that's shared by others, not necessarily OVTA itself. And through our working together, especially through this plan, we're able to, disseminate proper information as far as what the funding is. Alistair, if you want to clarify that a little better.
Yeah, thank you, and to the chair, to Councillor Emo. Yeah, that was really, I guess, a recognition that came from that consultation broadly. It's not a thing that the board has, really expressed a lot of concern about, but wanting to ensure sustainable funding for the organization into the future. And it involves all things, continue our strong relationship with city and county, but also to look at other sources of funding. We do, and we're successful with applications for funding. We've sought sponsorships, and we'll continue down that road when we see opportunities. So it's really overall just to be on guard and take nothing for granted, and always look for opportunities to grow our ability to market the Ottawa Valley.
Okay,
Thank you for the question.
Further questions of our presenter? Peter again.
And again,
Hopefully it's venison based.
no, not this week. In that slide, it mentions storefront revitalization. Now, is that, is there going to be a request come forward that the county enter into a CIP program similar to what a lot of our local municipalities do, or is that more of a need to make sure that we that have the CIPs market them properly to OBTA board and then through the board to its membership?
I would say there's probably a combination of both. Again, it's reflecting comments we received either through the direct interviews or through the survey. I think both are probably in order. I participated in the whole process. I tried to participate in the process as an operator and not as a board member, so that I could kind of see what it is on that side of the equation, because this is the side of the equation I live in. So some of the direct or behind the scenes machinations of the whole process are a bit beyond my pay scale. And our much smarter and better looking president is also better versed in that. But yeah, so unless Alistair wants to add something. Thanks again for the question.
Thank you for that. Further of our presenter. If not, thank you. Oh, pardon me, Peter again. Peter, another question?
No, not a question. Just thank you. And I wasn't trying to put you on the spot or in any way demean the work of this. I really like this document. I just want some clarity from me going forward. On what's the background of some of those comments, so that we can start thinking down the road. So beyond that, very impressed with the document. Thank you. I think it's ambitious, and I like the fact that there is a very clear direction emerging from it with your goals. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And it had been a while since this process had been taken, and this exercise, and we're very excited about getting something on paper that we can all agree on, and these are what we want to look towards and work towards, and with everybody else's help and input, etc. And so we're looking forward to bringing it home. Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity again.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate, and as I said before, we appreciate the work that you and the board do to promote the Ottawa Valley and the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. And Alistair, I'm looking for 2 million visitors. Okay, and we're going to get there. COVID threw a little bit of a curve into it, but we're going to get there for sure. Thank you very much.
As soon as we can get the twinning project going, we should hit that number easily.
There you go. Thank you for that, Mark. We appreciate it. With that, then we'll go on to item number 6 of our agenda, and I'll ask Craig to talk us through the development report. Please, Craig.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. I'll go back a little bit. I think what was referenced in the tourism one was some of the downtown revitalization dollars, Councillor Iman, that has been floated about. I think that part of that was hopefully the revitalization, the provincial dollars to bring up your downtowns to standards, and the OBTA would be working with those downtowns, possibly on any promotional looks or otherwise, but not playing an integral role. I think that's where that was referenced. But 2 interesting presentations. I think that now the newcomers will take their ATV snowmobiles and poutine and beaver tails all the way through by what I heard. So that's great. In all seriousness, my report begins on page 2. Item number 1, with the actual appendix on page 7 of your report, is, as we often do, a look at a snapshot of where residential and condo sales are within the county of Renfrew. And of course, we all know that the boom continues in Renfrew County for housing, as we've seen even into the fall. The real estate market is going crazy, if we can use that term, and people buying up rural and city properties, for that matter, as people make the great escape from the city becoming instant millionaires and moving to Renfrew County and points we're in. So good news, and now managing the expectations of people when they move here as well, as they look for internet and other services as they move into our municipalities is key. So working with that as we move forward. Item number 2 is a bit of an update from AMO, based on really late last week, Premier Ford announced more funding into the ICON program, the Invest in Connectivity basically program, that broadband and cellular access would be improved, hopefully within the province. Evelyn has sent around information late last night from the Prime Minister, and of noting the new fund coming from the feds for launching $1.7 billion into rural and remote communities in internet access. They also mentioned a partnership with Telesat, which is interesting to note, given that Telesat is in the business in Canada. At the same time, Elon Musk Starlink is busy trying to launch satellites all across the region. So it seems like everybody's in the satellite world. I will go back to the comments raised by EORN to Committee and Council several months ago that while the feds have launched $1.7 billion, you may recall that to do the gigabit project or the gigabyte project in Renfrew County was in the amount of about $1.2 billion, just to do Eastern Ontario, sorry, not Renfrew County, Eastern Ontario. So for the sake of committee and the public part of the comments, what that means is that 1.2 for Eastern Ontario means a portion of the feds, a portion of the provincial dollars, and a large majority of private dollars fueling the internet upgrade. Now, one would suggest, why are we still moving forward on a gigabyte or gigabit project? I have to clarify that, when Starlink and Telesat are bringing satellite internet to the world, or to at least Canada. I would suggest to you, and these are my comments only, is that what EORN was bringing was fiber to home. That was that $1.2 billion. Fiber to home still remains the highest point you can get. It means direct line to the internet. Satellite is fine, and I think Councillor Keller is on ExploreNet, and many people are. Weather can dictate differences in your satellite speed. There is I call it a throttle back scenario that has existed over the years. When you reach certain capacity on the satellite, you tend to find lower speeds. Fiber to home is again where you want to be, because there is no latency, or a lot less of a latency issue on your internet. So that's, I think, what EORN is reaching towards, albeit Starlink and Telesat will be players in this game, but that is what it is. Interestingly enough, on Starlink, I think they estimated to get 50 or 100 megabyte download speed. They're reaching 200, 300, actually exceeding what they feel is necessary to provide people. So good news. Item number 3 is just a provincial budget announcement. Again, like last week, Premier Ford and his cabinet launched the newest budget of note to DNP, at least. In the budget is some support for tourism and hospitality. More importantly, a tax credit for staycations, which the OBTA has been promoting for quite some time. Stay in your own location or stay regionally, at least anyways, and get a credit for that. Realizing we're about to enter snowmobile season and how important snowmobiling is to this area, many have said hopefully the tax credit will be uncomplicated and will kick in as soon as the snowmobiling season hits. And then under forestry, there is some measures in place that acknowledge the mechanisms that are currently in place for the forestry operations and how they deal with the Endangered Species Act. So that was referenced as well in the new budget. And should you have questions, Jason's more than prepared to answer those for us at this point. There are a couple of resolutions, Chair. We can conquer those now and then go back to the whole report, but I'll leave it to you, Chair. Should we
go right ahead?
Fair enough, Chair.
Great.
Thank you. So resolution item number 4 is based upon today's presentation from Shaylin and Maria, the local immigration partnership, that the Development and Property Committee recommend that staff be directed to work with the LIP, the local immigration partnership, municipal engagement working group to determine if there's a future role for a member of council. So the background was given obviously during our presentation. So this is again a recommendation to, as referenced, to get the terms of reference from the LIP and to I would suggest work with the warden and the CAO on how the formation of a member of council will work under maybe some of the discussions that the ad hocs will have over the course of the next month or so. So that is the resolution. Chair, I can stop while you entertain maybe a motion and
let's clean that one up. With if you're comfortable with this, I need a motion, please. Warden and Peter, any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any, it's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And with your indulgence, I'd like to bring another resolution from my report. It was the addendum, item number 12, but I'll bring it up under my report to maintain some consistency in the minutes. And that is the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, the ICIP COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream. Whereas the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommend to County Council that the County of Renfrew apply to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream, for renovation of the council chambers for required physical and technical infrastructure to ensure compliance with COVID-19 health advice that would allow County Council to continue to operate in council chambers. Committee will recall that over the last month or two, we have brought plans forward for the council chambers that would involve, well, at least a discussion about plans moving forward on how to get the council chambers open in a safer fashion, which would require some technologically advanced systems for streaming meetings and a plexiglass solution, if you will, and some refreshes to that room to make them compliant. We had allocated dollars out of our a different fund, the provision for unallocated funds. However, this stream was just launched late last week, and we feel that the requirements are being met with our upgrades to make them compliant. So with that, it would make sense that we do apply, and the amount that the county has allocated to us is just over $255,000. This is the amount that Minister Yakubuski would have talked to many of you and to your staff about in your own communities, but it is still an application-based program where I believe we have to apply to suggest what we're applying for before that money is released. So that's our understanding. While the paperwork still has not been made available, that is our understanding. So the deadlines are very tight, and in the absence of other direction by council, we're asking for this direction at this point. Thank you, Chair. That is my report, and that is the final resolution.
Just by way of follow-up on that, 220 is a single application, so it has to be in by December the 21st, as I understand it, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, and it has to be completed by when?
Because we are
December the 31st, correct, something like 2021 or something?
That's correct. The County of Renfrew itself has not been dictated in their appendices as a remote community, so we are obliged to complete the project by the end of next year.
Sure. So just maybe, did you want me to give you a little bit of an update? I know there's a lot of municipalities and heads of council received a call with regards to this particular initiative, this ICIP situation from our Member of Parliament, John Yakubuski. It is, as Craig has said, an application-based funding initiative, which is perhaps not quite what we were led to believe when we received the phone calls. But nonetheless, that's how it will work. So you see that the cap that we all received, $100,000, some a little bit more than that, but there is it goes forward for review and approval, and as you can see, the bullets in terms of what can be what the funding can be used for is pretty broad, and so there's opportunities in there from retrofits, COVID-19 response, active transportation, disaster mitigation, and adaptation. So there's a lot of wiggle room, so to speak, to find a project that can fit within the allocation that the minister has indicated. It was a little bit different. We thought it was maybe sort of unconditional, but that is not the case. So just to make sure that if you're moving forward with this, it's not a check that you're going to get put in the bank. You're going to have to go forward with an application on a project. Okay. With that, if you want me to, I'll tidy this one up here, Craig. If I could get a motion to accept the recommendation of this particular resolution number. There's no number on it, but it's item number 12, the addendum. Need a motion, please, if you're comfortable with the suggestions. Sheldon, seconded by. Nobody wants us to. Oh, there's the warden. The warden's coming through. Okay, any discussion on this? Warden.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to remind committee as well that when we received this Safe Start fund from the province, we received 2.78 million, but it was for Safe Start operational. And we did make a plea to Minister Clark wanting to be able to use 300,000 of that exactly for what this project is, being able to make our council chambers operational. So certainly under this program, it looks like capital is good. We should be able to go forward with this. My only concern is that I think, and I'm not sure, Craig, if I read it here or somewhere, that the project could not already be started. So my question is, do we have any idea when the determination will be made whether or not we are successful in our application? Because at some point down the road, we're going to have to bite the bullet and start getting the renovations done in that council chambers.
Through you, Chair, to the warden, I would suggest that what we have done thus far is just contemplate the upgrades that we need for the council chambers. We haven't moved into a situation where we started the project. That's my determination of this. We've just conceptually worked on ideas. So I'm confident that they are launching the guidelines very shortly. They launched this and they basically told people to get going. I'm hoping in the next week or two that would mean that we can finalize, I guess, our concepts in our minds and move forward with the actual start, quote unquote, of the project and work from there. Can I just add on to that comment? I hope, though, and we don't have this confirmed, we had made a pitch, the warden and the chair, to MPP Stephen Crawford at AMO this summer on the resilience stream, the resilience funding for this project, which was pitched, as well as a very large 4 million and upwards trails pitch to create active transportation. Trails was referenced as possible funding options in the resilience stream, but $255,000 falls far short of the original ask. So we are still watching to see if another resilience stream is coming out because it seems like they were going to fund very, very large projects. But I would offer to you and suggest to you that $255,000, while a very large amount, is not a large infrastructure amount for some of those communities are looking to make large infrastructure changes as required. So again, very happy with this recommendation, but it fell a little bit short of what the ask was at AMO. Thank you for that aside.
Thank you for that. Further on this resolution or recommendation. Peter?
So do we have a backup application? Because if there's clarity and this project doesn't fit for some reason, and I, because we're having this conversation about almost starting it and contemplating it, and the report does speak to, being able to use the same contractor and tag it onto another one. If you get some kind of clear indication, do we have a backup project to submit by December 21st, I guess, if that's the date?
Now, the timelines are pretty tight, Peter, in that regard, as you can appreciate. So I'll pass that over to Craig.
I would suggest to you through the chair that based on our deputation to the parliamentary assistant in August is that staff would consider that the backup application would be for an active transportation presentation or application to the fund for a trails project. But that's, again, I don't have that distinct direction. I'm just basing that on the fact that we have made an ask in August for this fund. I'll point to my boss who I see whose hand is up at this point.
Paul, did you want to talk?
Yes, Chair, through you to the Development Property Committee. I think there's lots of opportunities. In fact, we could be ready right now with a number of other shelf projects as well. I think the challenge will be in making the decision as to which one to go with. As recently as this morning, I received a call from Shelley Sheedy, who actually is aware of this as well, who has an idea for a project with respect to some of the rooms at Bonashare Manor in terms of isolating residents. So there are a number of other properties, other projects as well, where we could pull something together to make application. I just want to go back to the warden's question, Craig, with respect to the need to get council chambers done in a very timely manner. We need to move this along as quick as possible and getting the money and approval from the province. How does that look, Craig, in terms of that timing, and will it line up for us?
Thank you, Paul. So through the chair to you and to committee, to be honest, I don't know. The guidelines have not been written, or if they have been written, they have not been launched to as early as yesterday. So we don't know the devil because the details haven't been launched yet. So with that, I feel that what we have contemplated doing in the council chambers is a lot of off-the-shelf solutions that we could have ready to go early in 2021 and complete within 8 to 12 weeks is my feeling.
Warden?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering whether or not it'd be worth a phone call to Minister Yakabuski just for a little bit more insight into this fund and whether or not he knows when the turnaround time will be from the time that we send in the application by the 21st of December and when we get an answer.
Mm-hmm. That mightn't be a bad idea. I think John is a little sheepish at this point in time, and I think you'd be a little bit helpful in that regard. And I think you'd work with the county to try and make this a reality going forward. But nonetheless, that is an excellent idea to contact his office and just get some sort of idea on the turnaround time on these projects. Dan?
Thank you, Chair. To Craig, some municipalities, I think, will drop the ball on this, that they're not going to have their meetings and make decisions on whatever they're going to be there for the 15th of December. The people that, or the communities that don't make it to the table in time, the money left over, is there a second kick at this thing? Has there been any mention of that?
Again, Councillor, I'm not aware. This is there was some misunderstanding right at the beginning of what the fund, that it would be application based, quite honestly. So I think everybody is learning the same time we all are. I don't believe there'd be a second kick. It could be based on, again, my opinion. They are offering many communities, including many in our own county, up until the end of 2022 as identified remote communities. So I would think this is it. If people need to get it together and have a meeting if required to dedicate an application for their funds that I think have been allotted to the community. I think this is just a paperwork issue that to cross the T's and dot the I's. For the county perspective, we've been offered $255,000. We have to make the case that it's compliant with an approved project, as I understand what we've received in writing thus far.
Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. With respect to the warden's question about contacting MPP Yakabuski, I'm also wondering if we can get direction from the committee to the warden and staff to contact him and ask him the same question with respect to future availability of funding from the same funding stream. I'm a little confused as to the earlier announcement about the release of the Safe Restart funding and the ICIP, and this being a new stream of funding. And, you know, Craig talked about, we had made the pitch to Stephen Crawford for a larger ask of money. Will that opportunity still be available to us, or is this it? And I'd like to get some clarification on that question as well.
I think we'd all like to get some clarification on a whole bunch of things. There's so many different projects out there, ICIPs and resilient funds, and it is very hard to keep on top of all of this this sort of stuff. But I think a good general discussion with our MPP would very much be in order with this situation going forward, because I think we're all sort of working in the dark somewhat in some of the things that are coming out with regards to this particular one. And as you say, Paul, it was a little bit difficult at the beginning. And anyhow, I think a good solid conversation with the MPP would be well in order. I see Peter's got his hand up.
Thank you. I was going to save this until we got to talking about number 3, but is it possible to chart this, have a chart that rolls forward either through finance or this committee or some committee that catches these announcements and as they come out, list for us the 2 or 3 prospective departments that might use it, and then as an update, you know, down the road, where it actually is, because there's just a pile of confusion about, not a pile, that's unfair. There is confusion about what's eligible, what's not eligible, who's going to apply. And then when we look across our organization with all the potential applications that either through the paramedics or long-term care, all those announcements, plus the funding that is coming into the social services stream, whether directly or indirectly, to help with extra bodies or whatever across any one of those. So if there's a means of maybe each committee does that, but if there's some means of just tracking this a little bit, so it's a little less confusing.
Sure. Yeah, it is confusing which stream is on first here and what stream can you apply for and who can apply for it, and of course we've got our own municipalities to worry about as well, and it is quite confusing, the number of different projects and programs that are out there that they need to be funded. It's clear there's not enough money to go around, but nonetheless, I think clarity is essential going forward. Gordon?
Thank you, Chair. I'll certainly undertake to have a conversation or communication with Minister Yakabuski to get some clarification on these issues. So if we end up passing this resolution, which I support and I think is a good resolution about where we could use the money, certainly by the time County Council rolls around on the 25th, we will have more answers on whether or not this is the project that should be going forward, or if something else needs to happen in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, if there's nothing further on this particular recommendation, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed to this? No, it's carried. There we go. All right, so they'll go back to the beginning of the report. Item number 1, residential and condo sales statistics. The only thing I'll draw your attention to on this particular document, and yes, you're absolutely right, Craig, things are moving along and sales are very, very brisk. But if you go to the bottom left-hand corner of this report, I think we should be a little bit concerned about what you see there. And that is the current inventory of available homes within Renfrew County for sale. And if you compare what is available in 2020 as opposed to 2019, they're down 64%. So there's not a lot of inventory out there, 150 units as opposed to 419. And that doesn't give anyone coming in a lot of choices. That's on every type of facility from, we'll say, mobile homes right up to the $1 million homes and beyond. So there's not a lot of options in there if you're coming in. So that's a concern that I think, and I've heard from the building group as well, but part of that is the COVID-19 scenario, plus also some of the issues that the builders themselves are having is getting equip or getting materials to build the homes. It's becoming so. I'll need to monitor that. We should be monitoring that to make sure. Any comments on that? But nonetheless, sales are brisk. Okay, thank you. Item number 2, comments or concerns. Item number 3. We've handled number 4. That's it on that. Okay, so we'll now go to economic development, which can be found on page 20. Alistair, please.
Thanks, Chair. And economic development report. I'm just getting myself to page 20. Bear with me. So item one is regarding our a study of our trails, to gauge, and this is specifically focused on our county trails, K&P Rail, Recreational Rail Trail, and the Algonquin Trail. And we've engaged the Ontario Trails Council to do a data search, survey, collection, interpretation, extrapolation of data to help us begin to understand what the return on investment is for the county and on our trails investment and growth. And really, it's a very important part as we do in all sort of, if you will, tourism endeavors is, again, what's the return on our investment in this marketing activity? And our trails are a great product for tourism and for residents. And we just need to be able to put a value on them. And it'll really inform a lot of our, certainly our policy as Renfrew County, but also it'll really help us in our tourism marketing as well to learn more about the users, where they come from, what they spend each day, what are the gaps, what do we not have that they want. So that's just getting underway. Item 2 is regarding a business survey of the effects of COVID-19 crisis. We did a spring survey or early summer survey, and what we want to do now is go out to our business community again. We had great response the first time. It's very helpful information. We're doing essentially the same questions, a couple of new ones, and we're asking our businesses, how are you doing now with having gone through 6 months of COVID and it's still in front of us? How have you been doing? And also, of course, the same questions about, what are your needs to get through the next round of this ongoing round of COVID, if you want, or phase 2. So that is circulating, and we'll have the results soon. And certainly this committee will see them pretty early on. I know we don't have a committee meeting in December, but I'm suspecting once we interpret them, we'll be sharing as we're able with DNP. Sorry. Item 3 is about our ongoing study, our survey of the socioeconomic environmental impacts of the Chalk River laboratories of Canadian nuclear laboratories on the county of Renfrew. It's also extended to include Pontiac County, Ontario, and Canada, but the main focus is us. A selected targeted group of business leaders, community leaders, and you elected leaders of the county of Renfrew have begun to receive email invitations to a Zoom conference for next week. And we have 2 scheduled sessions, and for elected and community leaders, it's a joint session in the afternoon of Tuesday, November 17th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The consultants figure 2 hours will be enough. It's some questions they'll present and ask for input, comments, feelings, perspectives that you as community elected leaders have about the laboratories, your level of knowledge of their effects and impacts, and your level of satisfaction with their communications and information sharing. And then in the evening from 6 to 8 p.m., it's business leaders, and I've got a couple of youth representatives going to sit in on that session as well to get some young people's perspective. And I just want to encourage all counselors, if they're able at all, to attend in the afternoon session. If you're unable, we certainly, and the consultants agree with this, that it won't, it's the same questions essentially. But certainly if the evening session is more convenient to you, we would certainly schedule you in there for that session if the afternoon session conflicts. So I think it's a great opportunity for elected leaders to have input, and just to flag that you will have received that email. And just item 4 is just a sort of an update. Business Development Officer David Wybu is working with a local website company, Blue North, and just we're close to launching our updated and enhanced Ottawa Valley Wood website, and a new, we call it a virtual Taste of the Valley. We've talked about it. It's really starting really as a directory of the Taste of the Valley vendors and a map to those who sell directly from their sites. But it's really a directory to year round and for many years into the future guide people to local food products that they can buy more easily online, in person, at retailers, where some of our food producers, have relationships with retailers. So the directory will cover as much of that as possible, and we'll be updating and amending it as required as we move forward. One other item, and it sort of came out of the discussions around the OVTA report, but we're just, and it's just a verbal, and it reflects back on your challenges with all these funding programs emerging from municipalities, same in the business community and our organizations and not-for-profits. So we're working on sorting out when we could schedule some workshops on highlighting what are the funding streams that are in play right now, and what they involve and the basic qualifications, and then guiding, if you will, our businesses and organizations to them. And the round, we've just heard about even more recently again that we'll support our museums, cultural centers, as well as businesses. It's very difficult for the business community to wade through it all as well. So in ECDEV, we're just going to get sorted out on sort of cataloging all of these and assembling them. And as we've done in years gone by, we may on some of the key programs bring in the funding representatives, if you will, the local government employees who assist us with these, and they could give an overview and help with questions and answers to help businesses and groups determine if they should invest the time to make the applications. So business community has the same challenges as you elected leaders, as many of you know. Chair, that's ECDEV report at this point.
Thank you very much. We'll go back to item number 1. Any comments or questions? Item number 2. Gordon.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, I'd be very interested to see the outcome of the survey with the business community. We certainly were quick off the mark, I believe, at the beginning of the pandemic to assist our business and all the various sectors that are out there for us. The Eastern Ontario Leadership Council, as well with Limestone Analytics, they're doing an environmental scan of the various areas in Eastern Ontario. And it's been about a month since I looked, but it's very interesting. You can delve down deeper and deeper into the data. So it's probably something worthwhile. Alistair probably already has done that, but I just thought I would bring it forward as well.
Thank you for that, Warden. Thank you. Further on to item 3. Item 4. One question on item 5. When are you planning to have these workshops? Have you got some sort of idea, the new year or sometime in December, or when are you planning on that one?
No, we certainly want to do one in the next few weeks. And being virtual, a lot of the logistics do become easier. But really, with the dates and timelines on some of these, we've got to at least do a first one to address the ones that have very short application deadlines, and there are many. Sure. And then we'll have to look, a little further down the road and have probably a second session that focuses on the ones that have a longer timeline. So that's already been evident.
Might be beneficial to elected too along the road to separate all those various funding streams out. Anything on 5 for anybody? No, thank you. Then we'll go to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Report.
Chair, if you can indulge us, me, We do have a short video that we wanted to present, and the ECDEV report's the best place for it. And it's really, it endorses really what the first survey revealed to us and how the Warden's task force utilized the data to craft the COVID Business Development Fund to help our organization, our businesses adjust and move forward through COVID. Sean's got a...
How long is this?
Oh, 20 seconds.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
So sorry, I know you've had a lot today. We asked the businesses to give us how did you use the funding for press release and sharing with the community? And Bishop Water Technologies did a short video. We thought it's the greatest way for you guys, for community to see
fair
this.
enough.
Thanks, Sean. Go take it away.
Thank you for that. So they're promoting their business that way. Okay, Ottawa Valley Tourist.
Thanks, Chair. And so page 22, it starts, item 1. And this is the resident sentiment data. And so numbers, Chair. But look, we've looked at it, and the Tourist Associations, Government of Ontario have looked at the appetite for hosting visitors and the appetite for being a traveler and a visitor somewhere else amongst the population. So we've collected some of the highlights in these charts, and you can see pretty stable. Now, a lot of this data is just before the second wave really got rolling, so it will change, and they're doing the data collection every couple of weeks. So there'll be a new set coming out right now, but it just shows what people think about, hosting, accepting visitors from other areas, and their plans to perhaps go to other areas. Are they comfortable doing that or not? So it's an interesting measurement of sentiment. And you'll see the appendix attached is about 75 pages of color graphics that have all this data in greater detail. And I'll just give you the flavor for one there so you get an idea of what it measures is when they ask people from across Ontario, are you comfortable with people traveling to your area from within your own region? And most people were. Your own province, and less people were. From across Canada, less people were happy with accepting visitors. From America, a huge number, 56% opposed to visitors from America. And there were fewer people opposed to international travelers. So you can see where the fear of COVID being brought into a community. That's really what this measures. But I'll jump now to, and it's really interesting to go through the data attached. Item 2 is about international travel trade efforts. And of course, with the situation, our multi-year campaign to grow more group tour travel from around the world, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, South Central America, where we've had a lot of good work done and some success. We're carrying on that in a maintenance mode, and not to lose ground and lose traction that we've built so far. So we're still engaging with the travel agents and the group tour operators there. And we've had some recent success with some of our packages that we have with Ottawa Valley Tourist Association and or OTO have been picked up as products they are selling for when the market recovers. So it's nice to be in essentially the catalogs of these major global tourism marketers. Item 3 is just what we're doing locally, and really we're promoting local. We're encouraged to keep our marketing aimed at local and within our region and nearby. And so we're focusing on the tourism efforts, and we're also focusing on resident to resident tourism, tourist in your own backyard. And with Christmas season, buying it in our Shop the Valley campaign to encourage local buying and purchasing. We're encouraging buy a tourism product as a gift, and it can be used this winter at a ski hill or for a snowmobile tour, guided tour, or it can be for a summer activity, and you can give somebody the gift of golf or whitewater rafting or a canoe trip or a bike purchase a bike for summer use at one of our stores. So, Chair, that's the tourism report.
Thank you very much. Item number 1, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none. Item number 2. And item number 3. Thank you. Then we'll go to Enterprise Renfrew County. Alistair?
Thanks, Chair. And it's page 96.
96.
And 2 items only. Starter Company Plus, just to keep committee abreast that we started our final intake. We do have, it's a couple-week process. We have 18 applicants who are moving forward to go through the 4-month process. And at the end, they'll compete, in this case, for up to $4,000 of funding if they wish in a business pitch contest. Item 2 is just that we have hosted a webinar on health and safety employment standards aimed at a lot of small businesses. I'll tell you, our large employers are having many of the same questions about, and it's the COVID environment that's giving them some new challenges they're not familiar with. Anyway, very successful, and we'll be continuing those sorts of things. Chair, that is the ERC report.
Thank you. Item number 1, questions? Seeing none. Item number 2. Don't see any. Thank you. And we'll go, thank you very much, Alistair. We'll go to Jason now, Forestry and GIS.
Well, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, committee. The Forestry GIS report can be found on page 97 of your committee package. First item under information is the activity tracker for the county forester, Lacey Rose, and the forestry and trail technician, Anthony Hobbs. As like the last committee report, the focus this past month has been in preparation for the timber sales. And so the majority of time has been spent on management of the county forests. Item number 1B, Lacey Rose continues with the outreach and education as directed by this committee and county council, where she participated on a career panel at the online Dream Big Renfrew County Career Discovery Expo for local young people. So again, Lacey's in a very male-dominated industry where she excels, and so to pass on her knowledge and information to young women is a good benefit to Renfrew County and people that could be considering forestry for a career. Item number 1C is an update on to this committee about 2021 timber sales. So staff have issued 4 timber sales for 2021 with the expectation of $180,000 revenue. It'll be interesting to see if the interest in the timber sales is equivalent to what the you see on the runs we've noticed on the wood during this COVID. So hopefully we'll get good results, good interest in these timber sales for 2021. 1D, the County of Renfrew Forestry. The forester Lacey Rose attended the certification working group for the FSC certification. You'll recall all the county forests are FSC certified. This is an umbrella certification through the Eastern Ontario Model Forest. And it's been a 2-year review process for maybe possible changes for the FSC certification. And once it's been finalized, Lacey Rose will bring to this committee some of these changes and implications to the County of Renfrew forests. Currently, the County of Renfrew spends about $8,000 a year for this certification. Item number 1E, again, for information as of right now, a very interesting concept where other community forests in Eastern Ontario are looking at and even jumping on carbon offsets, maybe even looking at carbon credits. This could be a future revenue generation for county forests. It's a possibility. Very early on in the idea of carbon credits, but staff will continue to look at this and then if needed, bring this forward to committee for more information and possibly a recommendation. There is implications again for the revenues, but also bigger implications for the County of Renfrew, and this could be enfolded or surrounded with maybe a greater green initiative through Renfrew County and Craig Kelly's group of and Real Property. So that's item number 1 for information under forestry. Item number 2 under page 99 is just the activity tracker for the GIS staff. And for the month of October, GIS staff worked on 80 GIS projects. That's it for the information, Chair. So I'll jump right into resolutions, if I may. And this is from the recent K&P Recreational Committee that was held on October 30th. And I'll read the recommendation and provide a bit of a background. That the Development and Property Committee recommend to County Council that the KNP Recreational Trail logo be accepted for the County of Renfrew owned portion of the KNP Recreational Trail. And what you have on page 100 of your committee package, and maybe I can just hold it up for a second, is a designed logo by Anthony Hobbs, which mimics the Algonquin Trail logo that's on our street signs right now. So this will give a good indication when people do hit the KNP Trail or use the KNP Trail that they are indeed on the KNP Trail. It also incorporates the word recreational, which we've, through this committee and county council, added to the KNP name. So it's a two-prong approach where we're marketing the KNP Trail, our portion of the KNP Trail, with this unique logo, and making sure the word recreational is part of our process, which lowers our duty of care, as discussed before with our insurers. So Chair, that is the end of my report and the resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Let's deal with the recreation resolution, the KNP Recreational Trail logo. As has been explained by Jason, this keeps it in line with the rest of the Algonquin Trail, and it's a similar type logo and actual trail, so that you'll know you're on a trail that belongs to the county of Renfrew. If you're comfortable with this, or you get any comments before I ask for a mover and a second to adopt that, it's here on item number 3 before we go to the resolution itself. Okay, then I need a motion, please. Dan, seconded by Peter. No discussion. A call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. Back to item number 1, forestry activities. Any comments or questions on 1A, B, C, D, and E? Peter.
I'm glad they've caught up to us. I know Paul and Jason and I have had this conversation probably 5 years ago. I was hopeful that it would be something that we could use, generate funds with our forests, and then use the funds at that time to fund the Algonquin Trail. But I'm sure there's other things we could use it for. But I'm so glad that this is starting to get some traction, and it might end up being a revenue producer for us.
Okay, thank you. Heather? Item number 2, the GIS. Okay, thank you. Then we'll go to the Algonquin Trail. Again, Jason?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. Page 101 of the committee package is the Algonquin Trail Advisory Committee report. For item number 1 for information is an update on the number of 1, 2, 3, 4 requests for quotes for activities along the Algonquin Trail, and all going through our GA01 policy for procurement, of course, and quickly go through each individual one. So the first one for 1A, and this has been completed, it's about 1.7 kilometers of stone dust to complete that section between Main Street and the village of Cobden, all the way to Turcotte Road. So that section in Whitewater region from Asher Lake Road to Turcotte Road is now completed with stone dust. And it's a nice 3-kilometer section where people can now walk there and back for about 6 kilometers, and also going from intersection to intersection. 1B is the completion of the limestone between Lochiel Street and Renfrew Avenue in the town of Renfrew. Again, this completes the trail all the way from Renfrew to Smith Falls in stone dust. So our portion of that section between Renfrew and Arnprior is around 35 kilometers. So a big completion, that last kilometer within the town. Hopefully, if committee has a chance to walk that section, very well used already. I've heard good feedback, because even though it was just finished last week, positive feedback so far. Item number 1C has not been completed, but just for committee's information, we will be completing a small portion between Paquette Road and the Petawawa River structure, and that was issued to H&H Construction. And under 1D, Just the completion of the bridge in the town of Arnprior, the Madawaska River Bridge, where we've incorporated additional approaches to the structure. So this is a safety issue where we've added basically 30 meters on either side of the bridge with chain link fencing. And again, that's for a more of a health and safety concern for anything else, but it is now completed. It looks really good. And we're moving forward with that project. And now moving on to item number 2, if I could, is called, or the title is Timberline Snowmobile Grant Club, or Club Grant Request. You may recall, committee, and that the Timberline Snowmobile did apply for a grant earlier on in the year. They were not successful. They found out later on there was a second round of funding. They did reapply for that, and they were successful for a portion of the $132,000 of that grant application. They did come to the county if we were willing to give them money to complete this $132,000 to complete a section of the Algonquin Trail from Greenwood Road to College Avenue in the city of Pembroke and Laurentian Valley. Staff did find enough money to help them with that, but upon further discussion, internal discussion within the snowmobile clubs, they decided not to proceed with this grant request just because they had no firm indication what the city of Pembroke and Laurentian Valley would be doing in case they wanted a bypass of this section. So they withdrew that ask from the county of Renfrew for $32,000. But in that discussion, during that discussion at the ATAC meeting, committee did direct staff to use the remaining funds within our budget, around $30,000 to $40,000, to put stone dust within the city of Pembroke from McKay Street as far as Rankin Street if possible. So we did receive direction to do that, and we did issue a request for quotes for that section, and hopefully we had some good answers back by this Friday. That's item number 2, Chair. And item number 3 is just an update to this committee. Again, we've talked about this before. The County of Renfrew has signed the asset donation agreement with CP back in 2016, but that still means there's lots of transfers to be done. And what you see in front of you on page 103 in item number 3 is that the 4th set of transfers has occurred. The warden and the CAO did sign up to 8 documents in triplicate, quadruplicate, to get 35 more properties within Renfrew County transferred from CP to the County of Renfrew. That equates to around 75% of the lands that CP did own are now in the County of Renfrew's name. Still lots to be done, but we expect to have one big set of transfers next year through Crown Land, and that would represent over 90% of the lands that would be transferred. So a big step forward, Chair, to move this transfer of properties along. Again, 35-ish properties to the County of Renfrew, representing around 75% of the land mass now in the county's name. So, Chair, that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much, Jason. Go back to items number 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. Warden.
Thank you, Chair. I just note that in 1D, the quotes, the one is more than twice the amount of the other. So I'm just wondering why there'd be such a discrepancy and if there was some confusion as to what we were looking for.
Who's going to handle that, Jason?
If I may, Chair, through you to the warden. So GP Splinter has completed a number of projects before for the county and the Snowmobile Club. I believe they had a better understanding of what was required. I do not think there's an issue with our request or the information we were looking for. And McRae this is one of the first times they've actually applied, submitted a submission to us. So it could be just a learning curve on their end.
You're comfortable that they can handle the tender?
Chair, if you're asking if GP Splinter can?
Yes.
They are very capable, and that section has been completed.
Yeah, I know they've done a lot of work for us on the trail, for sure. Okay, we're getting there, folks. Just so you'll know, I'll see you, Dan. I'll get to you just a second. We're getting there. Just to remind everyone, it's 210 kilometers long, and we're getting there incrementally. But as you heard, we're from where? From almost Renfrew all the way down to Smith Falls. Cobden down to Smith Falls, something like that. Is that what you said, Jason?
So we've stone dusted, if I may, Chair, we've stone dusted a total within Renfrew County close to 60 kilometers within Renfrew County. The major continuous portion is between Renfrew and Arnprior.
Yes.
But we do have a big section around 13 to 15 kilometers between Pembroke and Petawawa, Yeartown. So
Yeah.
We've done big chunks and then some smaller chunks in between.
Sure. But we're getting there bit by bit. Dan, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment on D, in that I'm an Arnprior and I do travel with my four-wheeler. These fences are steel chain link, which prevents us from falling off the cliff, which are under safety is 100%. So it's an excellent professional job, all steel, all cement, looks fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Other on 1 through D, A through D. Item number 2, any comments? So we're going to move and do some stone dusting down there once it comes in. Okay. Item number 3. And again, we're getting there as well with the survey work and things of that nature. Okay, fair enough. Nothing. With that, then we'll go to real property. Who's speaking to this? Craig?
Chair, the warden has her hand up, Chair.
Oh, pardon me, Warden. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I probably I meant to make the comment concerning the Timberline grant, that once we do know that we will be stone dusting from McKay to Rankin Street, I would suggest that we send a notification letter to the city of Pembroke, letting them know we're going to be doing that, just out of respect and courtesy.
Yeah, I think that was kind of what came out of the discussion, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think we're decided that's what we're doing, and we're going to go forward. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Okay, thank you. Real property. Who's talking?
I am. Mr. Valaket
Okay,
is.
go ahead.
Mr. Valaket is away this week. Page 104. I'm sitting between you and Charles, so I know I'll be brief. So page 104 is the Real Property Assets Division report prepared by Mr. Valaket. Items number 1 and 2 are project updates as per the norm. Things are on schedule as we approach the last part of fourth quarter 2020, and things are on track to be completed by the end of this year. Item number 3 is an update on the service delivery improvement project, the renovation here at County Administration Building. Sometimes you can hear background noise on our microphones when we're speaking. Of course, they're continuing finalizing phase 1, which is the development of property public works area, and we should be starting to populate those areas starting next week after we get an occupancy permit from the approval authority, and the new sign should start to take shape over the next couple of weeks as well. At the same time, starting tomorrow, actually, the contractor will start demolishing the public works area and making way for the new space down there. The former health unit space has now been entirely demolished and is being readied for the future community services department, now being bandied about. The former social services, the new community services department is being readied, and the courtroom is slowly making its way to being finalized. So we are potentially a third of the way through this project, and things are going well. And we will bring you a full report to, I believe, in December, to the inaugural county council meeting with better videos and better shots of a fully furnished phase 1, at least at that point, and reception area. So with that, Chair, is the Real Property Assets Division report. Thank you.
Thank you. Will there be pictures, video, and stuff like that?
The whole thing.
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, item number 1, projects update. Item number 2, service delivery improvement project. It's on time, on budget, everything's going fine. Yes?
Silence is golden, isn't it? The project is the project is advancing, sir.
There you go. Any comments on number 3? Okay, thank you. Then we'll go down to the last report is Planning Services Division report. Where's Charles?
Good afternoon,
Charles,
committee chair.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. It's your report, Charles.
The plan report is on page 107. We have a couple of important items to go through. First one is our activity tracker with our information on our activities the past month of October. I just wanted to indicate that in addition to the activity tracker that I normally present, I also put in the number of general inquiries we've just been receiving but not processed yet. And you get an idea of how many are coming in. There's basically one a day over the month of September and October, and we already have 10 in November. So there is a lot of interest out there in the community to do development projects, and they're coming through us for getting some kind of a pre-review of what they're proposing. But there is a lot of files coming our way. Item 2 are the services provided by the County of Renfrew Planning Division. I think the Vice Chair Hunt requested these last October, or the October session, and I've listed the services. And I hope that gives a fairly good summary of what we do. I've also indicated how some of these services are paid for, and the fact that all our fees and so forth are contained in our tariff of fees bylaw. Item 3 is probably the single biggest item of this report, and it's County of Renfrew Official Plan Amendment number 31. And I'll just read the recommendation so we know what we're looking at. That the Development and Property Committee recommend that County Council receive the attached November 10th, 2020 draft OPA 31. That draft OPA be circulated in accordance with the provision of the Planning Act to local municipalities, prescribed agencies, and of course the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and that we set out a time period in which we'd like to get comments back. And that upon a completion of that circulation and subsequent review by committee, that we have an electronic statutory public meeting be held on a future date yet to be determined. As far as background is concerned, attached to your package, page 114, is a draft of the bold and strike through version of OPA 31. And this document is based on discussions that we've had with the Ministers of Natural Resources and Forestry and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, as well as with this committee and County Council. The purpose of OPA 31 is to make changes to the recently approved County OP that will address the unique geography and characteristics of the County of Renfrew and be consistent with the local policy context. Sean's put up the PowerPoint, and I'll get to that in just a couple seconds. Thank you, Sean. Also attached is a chart on page 324. That tracks the changes that we've put into OPA 31. So it's a summary, a very handy summary. It has practically all of the changes, but you should always refer to the document itself. But I thought it would be helpful to committee and to ourselves as well to show what changes we've made. As far as mapping is concerned, I just want to advise committee, in addition to the changes we made, the changes we didn't make, we have not changed the added lands that were designated agriculture by the province in March of 2020, and nor did we remove the deer yards, the significant wildlife habitat. And I'll explain that with respect to the deer yards in a moment. With respect to the agriculture, as your planner and advising you, I felt that the province had gone through an assessment, and that if that these lands were prime ag, and if they were to be removed, there should be some justification for their removal. OPA 31 would come into effect upon adoption by County Council, subject to any appeals, of course. This document can be appealed. So Sean, if you could queue up the PowerPoint now, that would be great. Thank you. So just the first slide was just OPA 31, and it's an overview of the changes. I'm going to go through the just a bit of the purpose, background, and summary of main changes, and the summary of the other changes. It's not a long PowerPoint, but I'll go through it as it is. I've just discussed what the purpose is, and we should just understand what it is. It's to make changes to the recently approved OP to address the unique geography and characteristics of Renfrew County and be consistent with the local context policy framework of the provincial policy statement. Next slide, please. By way of background, these dates are familiar maybe with many of you. we had our OPA adopted in 25 in 2018. We had partial and final approval by MMAH in 2019 and 2020. I did a presentation to County Council on the minister's mods to OPA 25. As a result of that, on June 4th, the county requested deferral of OPA 25. Obviously, there were concerns that the county had, and they wanted the plan deferred, the implementation. We weren't successful with that, but we did have discussions with Minister Clark of MMAH and Minister Yakubuski, explaining our concerns. They understood where we understand many of our concerns. August 31st, County Renfrew OPA exempt from minister approval. So the province granted us exemption status as a result of our updated official plan. Another date I could have put on that slide is today, November 10th, 2020, which is draft OPA 31. And if you, one way to look at this OPA that's before you, it's a combination of the purpose and the changes we want to make to our county OP, plus getting exemption status equals OPA 31. So we want to do things with the approved OP. We now have exemption status, and coming out of that is OPA 31. Next slide, please. Sean, thank you. I just want to say a few comments before we get into a couple of the changes. There's only a few more slides here. We felt, and I feel as your planning advisor, that we can't just go back, turn the clock back to OPA 25. That certain things have happened since then that we have to be cognizant of. The provincial policy statement has been updated. We've seen the final approval of MMAH on the March OP, and we know where the province is going with some of these provincial type issues. We have the Planning Act that we have to be consistent with. And I have a professional planning code of conduct, planner's code of conduct, to uphold the public interest as expressed in legislation. So I have a duty of care as a professional planner. Having said all that, our guiding principle and approach to OPA 31 was to seek the elusive middle ground between the provincial policy and our interests here in Renfrew County, which I think are unique and are worth noting and seeing addressed. And as I said before, my approach in all of this is to seek a balance in what we're doing and what is the problem that we're trying to solve. So with that in mind, I'll just run through some of the main changes to the OPA. Population projections, we deleted reference to those projections as allocations, and I know that was a concern to all of us. So in that case, we did go back to OPA 25. Scope and structure, either the county OP or the local OP applies. None of the mixing of the two. The county OP was designed as a local official plan for 10 or 12 of the municipalities in the county, and the other municipalities have their own official plan. There is a tie-in for the urban community designation, which is Arnprior, Deep River, Renfrew, and Petawawa. And then there's policies for Laurentian Valley as well that have their own official plan. And those sections of the OP just say these municipalities should have their own official plan, and here's at minimum what kind of policies they should have them. So that's where we've done with the scope and structure. Archaeology was a concern. Basically what we were through the modifications back in March, if you're basically within 300 meters of a water course, you would have to do an archaeology study. And the province saying that you had to do one regardless of the size of the development. We had wording in the OPA 25, which gave a little bit more definition of what development was. And we've put that wording, similar wording, back into OPA 31. So we're now saying in OPA 31 that study would be required to address archaeology if the lot exceeds the third lot. And what that means is if you've already had 3 lots from the original holding under the OP, that 4th lot would require the archaeology study. It would also apply to plan a subdivision, which is fair game, and it would also apply to industrial and commercial development that would disturb more than 1 hectare. So the triggers for an archaeology study have been relaxed a little bit from what the province approved. Another big issue related to studies was the study requirements for environmental impact studies around some of the natural heritage features we have in the county. So with respect to significant wildlife habitat, that is deer yards. And we have gone to the wording that EIS is required if the lot exceeds the 3rd lot, similar to the archaeology. It was 5 in OPA 25, but we dialed it back a little bit to be a more reasonable approach. EIS will also be required if development disturbs more than 2 hectares. It was 5 hectares under OPA 25, but we just brought it down to 2 hectares, which is 5 hectares is a very large development. 2 hectares is more reasonable. But we also can rely on one of the modifications the province made to our OP was a comments or a policy on the environmental impact study that in certain cases they could be waived even when one was required if the development was minor in nature. So even when a study is required by any of these triggers, there may be a case for saying that even in those circumstances, you don't have to do an EIS because the impact is not going to be significant. So we hope we still have some policy relief in that respect. Fish habitat, the same as above. But if the commercial industrial development disturbs more than 1 hectare, significant woodlands, same as the significant wildlife habitat piece. And with respect to significant valley lands, we've changed it from shall to may, depending on the scale of development. So all of those natural heritage features, we're not trying to avoid studying the impact on natural heritage. It's just finding an appropriate trigger for our area and given the context. In terms of karst, another big issue, that's the limestone. A lot of Renfrew County is covered by it. We have put back into OPA 31 the County of Renfrew protocol instead of the desktop study and site visit that was required by the ministry. The protocol basically involves the owner of the property digging test pits, the chief building official checking on it to see if there's any issues, and if not, we can move forward. So it's worked very well for us, and we have put it back into the OP. The next one, reserve sewage system capacity. I've spoken about this many times. The PPS says that you can't create new lots unless you've got reserve sewage system capacity. In the modifications that the province has made, they've not put in the fact that reserve sewage system capacity includes land application of hauled sewage at Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks approved sites, which is what they do now in the county. That's what the actual PPS says, in our opinion, and we are going with that. Sewage now is hauled from septic tanks and is applied on fields throughout our area. It's legal, it's PPS, and as far as we're concerned, it needs to be very clearly stated in the official plan, which is what we've done. Sand and gravel constraint layer. I might have changed the heading of that item 7 to Schedule B Map 3, which is a mineral aggregate and mining resource map that's separate from the Schedule A, but part of the OP. The province called it a constraint layer. We want to call it an information layer because it is a map that you would refer to for information, but any of the constraints are really on the Schedule A, not on that map. And we've removed what was called the sand and gravel constraint layer under the province's modifications. We've removed that from the mapping. And if Sean can go to the next couple of slides, I'll just fill you in on that. This is Round Lake. And I think I showed this to County Council before. This was the approved OP, and that toning along those lots that sort of dip into Round Lake, they were covered by this sand and gravel constraint layer just along the county road there. If you go to the next map, Sean, please. Yep, if you just, it's a slow train here to the slide. You'll see that we've removed that sand and gravel constraint layer. In our position, it did not make sense. You're on water. These areas are developed with cottages. It did not make any sense. The next slide, just to give you one more indication of what we've done with the sand and gravel layer. This slide is from the town of Petawawa. So on Schedule B of the county OP, just back down a little bit, Sean, please. Or one up, I guess, sorry. Anyway, that's the previous slide showed that the town of Petawawa covered in the sand. Yeah, that's what was approved in the OPA 31 by the province. That area that you see toned there was the sand and gravel layer. That actually corresponds to the built up portion of Petawawa. There are thousands of homes there. So what we've done is, if you can go to the next slide, please, Sean. We've removed that layer from that area. So There's a few little areas left. Those are just the resources that are associated with mineral aggregate designations, but that majority of that sand and gravel there is gone. And then the next slide, please, Sean, is just a summary of, and I've only got 2 more slides. Some other changes we made to OPA 31, just for your information. We added new policies for properties greater than 10 hectares and for lands designated agriculture. We've added some policies discouraging development within 1 kilometer of urban community and village community designations. Those are areas that are on service water and sewer. And we're just saying that if there's new development that's abutting up against those serviced areas, be very careful with what you approve, because we want to ensure that if there is growth, it's sufficient growth, and that lands that are abutting these areas are not developed in such a way that it makes for it difficult to put services in those areas. And the final slide is a policy idea that we got from one of our planning comrades down in, I shouldn't use that word, planning colleagues down in the county. And it was for small subdivisions that we've put a policy that would permit a new policy permitting small subdivisions with an alternative form of access if supported by local municipality. Right now, if you want to do a subdivision, you either have to put a public road or a condominium common element, and those can both be complicated. So there might be room for a small type of development on a road that has some kind of road that is not quite a condominium, but more than a private road, and there's a sort of a shared interest and an agreement with the municipality that that the road is not part of the municipal infrastructure, and it has to be looked after by the people who have lots in that subdivision. This may not be for everybody, and it has to be done with your eyes wide open, because it's a form of access that's not solidly public and not a condominium, but it's there for consideration to add some flexibility to the document. So thank you, Sean. That completes the that part of the report number 3. Item 4 is another important topic, and that's back on page 109 of your report. Request for delegation authority for the giving of consents by the Township of Whitewater Region. Recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommend that pursuant to Section 54 of the Planning Act, Council pass a bylaw to delegate the authority for giving of consents to the Township of Whitewater Region. Just by way of background, we received a letter from the Mayor of Whitewater Region that requested that we considered giving this authority to the Township. They indicated that they had some reasons for doing that, including a one-window approval process, greater local decision-making. The Planning Act provides for this. And I did a little bit of background for a committee's interest. Only 3 other municipalities in the county have delegated authority. And this authority was handed down to, in the Dages Township of McNabb, Arnprior, Renfrew, and Deep River back in 1983. So it's over almost 40 years since we've last done this. In 98, we did an updated bylaw for McNabb Braeside, recognizing that Braeside amalgamated with McNabb. Town of Deep River did have consent granting authority. They asked us if we would take it back, which we did a few years ago. The township has a committee of adjustment, which would likely take over this authority. They have a planner on staff who's a registered professional planner, and he also is an accredited committee of secretary treasurer. There's a lot of processing involved with these types of applications, not just the planning review, but just processing the application. There is a bylaw that I'll just speak to at the very end, if I can, on page 330. What I would do, first of all, just look at some of the implications for this, this action if County Council takes it. There will be a financial implication. I put in the numbers there. There will be a revenue loss. Severances generate revenue. There is a lot of course, cost in reviewing them and so forth, but there is a fee that the applicants pay. And I suspect that if there was a revenue drop, it would have to be made up in terms of the levy. I doubt that there's an appetite to increase the application fees during the time of COVID. We didn't want to do that. So that is an option, but we're not recommending that. If there's going to be a revenue drop, that it be made up by the county levy. Other implications to consider is the precedent that this could set. And we don't want what what we think to be a very efficient and effective service at the county level dispersed too much to the local level, and you lose some of those economies of scale, which I talk about in the next paragraph. Because we are the approval authority for 14 of 17 municipalities, we can devote a lot of resources to all the various aspects of looking after these files, and the further delegation of that authority could affect those economies of scale. We're also concerned, another implication is that there be consistent application of the county OP. However, there is another thing to think about, and if we hand off this authority to Whitewater, that will enhance capacity for our staffing to work on the other municipalities. So there could be a benefit in that respect, and you look back at those general inquiries that are mounting up on us. And maybe, Chair, if I could turn to page 334 in the committee's report, just to go through the bylaw that we drew up. So this is on page, 330. This is the bylaw that County Council would pass and that you would recommend to County Council delegating the authority. We did have legal input, and the comments were that it was a good bylaw, so there's no issues that way. And it is a bylaw that, as you know, that first part of it just hands the delegation down to the township. Item 2 of the bylaw, that we would take in applications till the end of December 31st, 2020. That in exercising the authority under item 3, there is a Schedule A attached, and I'll talk about that in a moment. That's actually number 4, sorry. And that the bylaw would come into force and effect on the first day of January 2021. So the township would effectively have a month if the bylaw is passed to get their operation up and running, if that suits their schedule. Page 332 is the Schedule A, and it's the conditions with respect to the delegation of this authority. And the reason for these conditions, it's not a common practice, as I've explained. The planning landscape has changed dramatically since 1983 in terms of policies. We have the PPS, we have changes to the Planning Act, which has in effect a lot more provincial interests, and the role of the upper tier is far more enhanced than it was all those years ago. And we also have the county OP to be concerned with. So basically the conditions would be number 1, application. We would want to be circulated, and the applications and the notices. Most of these are already laid out in the Planning Act as the upper tier. We get these notices anyway. We've indicated that we could request additional information like planning reports if we wanted to. And our desire in getting certificate and reference plans, we are in fact, through Jason's department, the keepers of the parcel fabric in Renfrew County. So as lots are created and they come on stream, we would like to get that from the Township of Whitewater, and we can put that into the parcel fabric and keep those new lots are created. Item 2, decisions will be made in accordance with the applicable law. That's straightforward. Item 3, the Committee of Adjustment could further, or pardon me, County Council will likely delegate it to their Committee of Adjustment. We would just want to be notified of that at the appropriate time. Item 4, once a year at the end of the year, a brief report seeing how things are going with the township, if they have any concerns, and maybe get an idea of the numbers of files that they're dealing with. Number 5, just indicating that as we are now under the Planning Act, we would have appellant status, and we're just indicating that to the township. Item 6, we would be available to provide any support to the township that they would ask for. We want to help them in this transition, and we're there to do that if requested. And item 7 is just something that's straight out of the Planning Act, and that is that any county that would delegate to a lower tier can also withdraw that delegation of authority. I just wanted to put that in so everybody's aware of the Planning Act. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Oh, Chair, your microphone's off still.
Okay, item number 1. Any questions? Item number 2. The level of services that we provide at the county. Brian? Brian?
Yeah, I was trying to unmute there. Thank you, Chair. Question, thank you for putting together this information. And I requested this information out of concern of the severances going down to the lower tier municipalities and what the end result could be on the planning department. Perhaps I'll explain to you, like many of the other townships, we're going through a modernization review. We did one in partnership under the LAG, and we've done another one with our own township. And through the review with our own township, one of the recommendations that has come back, although we haven't got a finalized report yet, is that we should look at taking the approval process for severances and for subdivisions to the township level. So, and then when I seen Whitewater doing it, and you did mention, Charles, in your presentation, that this could be a trickle effect as it starts to be downloaded. So it is a concern of mine, because if the planning department gets disseminated in some state, when bigger items come in front of us, like an official plan and all that, do we have a department that is ready to handle this? So I think we have to be careful on, you know, what items are pulled from the planning department for this to still be able to have a strong and functioning department. So, and you did mention in putting the severances down to the municipality, it would perhaps give opportunity for the planning department to do other work for the municipalities. And I'm wondering, and I don't know what the proper timing is for it, is should the planning department reach out to the lower tier municipalities and do some kind of a survey to say, what are we doing today? What are we doing well? What are we doing that you could see want improvement? Or what are we not doing that would really help the municipalities? And I think that if we could get this input coming back and get our planners maybe involved in this, that maybe we could pick up some items within the planning department that would fill the gap for the time that would be taken away by some of the lower tier municipalities taking on these approvals themselves, and perhaps make a stronger department. So I'm wondering if we can put it on the things to do in the near future, is to do a survey like this. I know I do have concern myself on policy and bylaws that I see our local planner working on, that I know that all the other townships have to work on. One item being cannabis, but there's many and many. And as we go through this modernization review and look to get ourselves moved out of the silos, I really see there's an opportunity here for the planning department to jump in and be the leader on this. But I think, you know, a survey of the departments would be needed. So I would like to see or to hear if the planning department would be receptive to such a thing, because when we get this report back on our modernization, it does have to go to council, and council will have to make a decision to act on the recommendation or not. And that recommendation that I think is going to be coming is that we look at doing severances, we look at doing subdivision approval at our level. Like we are in at the front end today, and then we're in at the back end when, especially when severances are refused, it's the township that has to try and answer all these questions. So we're not in that approval process. So in some ways it would maybe be good for us, but I think there's a lot of ways that it really wouldn't be helping us. So for me, myself, I want to get more knowledgeable on it, but I also would like to see that the planning department acts as a leader in these other things that could be more efficient. And if we do pull items from the planning department, that we make sure that they're filled with other items that are of value to the lower tier. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Any comments from staff?
I don't know if Craig or Paul want to venture into that.
Craig,
I'm happy to wade in a little bit through you, Chair, and then feel free to help out. So I'm not a planner and I don't even play one on TV. But I think to Charles's crew, the planning activity was fairly clear. We were receiving upwards of 1 a day general inquiry forms. These are something that many municipalities take advantage of. At least the people living in many municipalities take advantage of. These general inquiries are people who just are thinking about something they want to do in their land. We get no money for them. We don't charge for them. Committee and councils have said not to do that over the years, and rightfully so. It hopefully promotes development, and hopefully those get turned into some type of proposal in the future that is a revenue generator. They take up, if I can use the Boston phrase, a wicked amount of time. Days and days are spent for one inquiry that may or may not translate into something in the future. That we do that on behalf of all municipalities. So there's no shortage of work, if things were taken away from us, it would. Let me even back up a little bit. This recommendation was not didn't come to us easy. You know, Whitewater Region is a good jag of work for our staff, and we do a lot of work in Whitewater Region. But we recognize that they made a request, and we felt that it was appropriate to suggest that they could take it on because they have the capacity, or suggested to us they have the capacity. But we work with all the municipalities quite well, and continue to do so. So I think I saw Paul's hand up as well, and maybe Charles wanted to jump in.
Just hang on a second, Jeb. Are you planning to leave?
Yes, I do plan on leaving, Chair, but I just wanted to make one comment before I leave, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
And that is, we used to have our own planner up here, and we ended up getting together with the county of Renfrew for two reasons. One of them was cost. It was costing us about around $20,000 a year, and the other thing was we were doing a lot of duplicating that the county was doing. So why I couldn't understand why we even wanted to go that avenue. So we hooked up with the county of Renfrew, and we find our life much easier now. So I won't be here to vote on this, but I will not support this personally.
Okay. There's Paul and then Charles. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. From the get-go on this resolution, my main reservation was that in an era of finding efficiencies and doing business in a more efficient manner, this is actually contrary to that. So, you know, when we look at the history of this, it was back in the 80s when we originally did this. It was a completely different environment. You know, my other main concern with this recommendation is that the consistency across the county could be lost in terms of our decisions. So we eventually will get into a situation where a resident will say, this is the decision in McNabb Rayside versus this is the decision in the town of Petawawa. And we're going to see ourselves in front of the what used to be the Ontario Municipal Board, the LPAT now. You know, I think that there needs to be some oversight at a higher level. I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. If I could just say a few comments.
Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, thank you. The survey idea, you know, I think is not is something to consider, and it seems like a lot of people are looking at their even the county of Renfrew, what the services we're providing and where we're growing. And now one of the things I mentioned was we wouldn't want to see further requests for severances and now plans of subdivision. That puts a whole new shine on this that we were not aware of when we put the report together. And I'm going to throw it to the committee that perhaps this request by Whitewater Region may be premature until we do a survey, until we see what these other service reviews are doing down at the local level to see what the total picture is before we start handing things off, and get a clearer picture of where we're going and where they're going. So that's just a suggestion. I know the recommendation was, and you had a bylaw in front of you, but that's something you can consider given some of this new information.
Oh, Chair, your microphone. Sorry, your microphone.
Sorry, Peter, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And this was going to be a question through you to Mr. Morrow. Sorry, it's been a long day. And I was going, Charles has sort of led the same area I was going to, as has Brian. I was going to suggest that, we table this, and I was wondering how long we could table it for. Can we table it till July 1st? Because that should give us some time to sort out all the other studies that are going on, and then have a sense of what, if there is some kind of a survey sent out, that's great. But it's still at the same point, I think, there's going to be a lot of shifting of deck chairs in the next little while, and it might make sense to table this and just explain to Whitewater we're just waiting for the dust to settle from a whole pile of reorganizations and reorganization discussions. I can't see it being problematic for them in the sense that they're still going to get their severances and subdivision projects looked at. So I don't, to my eye, there isn't a sense of urgency, and I'd much rather do it in a planned fashion, and no pun intended, but also with a view to where it fits into the overall scheme within the 7,000 square kilometers that's Renfrew County. So that's, I guess, my first question to Mr. Morrow is, what are our options in terms of, can we table it, and is there a time limit on tabling?
Okay, I see the warden, and then I'll go to Paul. Warden?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a problem with the suggestion to table, but I think we're just on item 2. I think we may have drifted into the discussion on the resolution, but we're only on item 2, and I don't think that that's where Councillor Emo, that's the issue he wants to table.
Yeah, and we're coming back. We're going in and out between 2 and 4 here. Okay. So there was a suggestion made by Brian with regards to some sort of survey that was to be done as a result of some of the areas that the county planning division was involved with. And as the warden said, and I was trying to get you back into number 2, and we're all of a sudden we're in number 4 here. So what is your poison in terms, oh, pardon me, Paul, Paul, we'll get back to you in a second, because that would be number 4. We're still dealing with number 2 here. So Brian has made a suggestion that we can take a look at maybe some sort of survey or whatever, and maybe as a suggestion, we could leave that with the staff and have staff have a look at that and come back to us. I don't think, Brian, that you're sitting on the edge of your seat at this point in time to see how that would evolve. But I would much rather see a background document that would coming from staff that would address that particular situation that you're talking about. So I don't think if you want directing to staff to do that, you need a resolution to that effect, I guess. Warden?
I'm sorry, it's been a long day. So just for my clarification, Chair, so are you asking the staff to come back with a report on how a survey would be conducted, or are you asking the staff to go ahead and do a survey?
Well, a little bit of both, and then we can make it a decision as to whether we want to go ahead with that particular suggestion by Brian. Paul?
Chair, if I may, the staff preference would be a direction to staff to prepare an outline as to what a survey would look like, what questions we would ask, and bring that information back to committee to move forward for approval.
And I think that's what I'd like to see. I think that would work and satisfy everyone, and we can go moving on. So you need a motion to direct staff to that. Is that what you're asking for, Mr. Morrow? Yes? Yes, there you go. Okay, so I need a motion, please.
So
Brian and Peter. Is that correct? Brian and Peter.
Yes.
Yep.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Brian moved it, Peter seconded it. There's no discussion, I'll call for the vote, all in favor? Opposed of any, it's carried, okay. Now, we've got that one. Anything further on number 2? Okay, so now we'll go to item number 3, which is the OP 31. This has been a long journey, Charles, and I want to say thank you to you for staying the course here. It's been a difficult, not difficult, but challenging situation with up-team meetings, as you've articulated, and I think you've done a stellar job of trying to address some of the issues that we've always articulated to the province of Ontario about how unique we are in here, that one size doesn't fit all, and I think you've gone a long way to address that. So thank you for that. As I go through this this official plan, and there's 214 pages, and believe it or not, I didn't read all of them, but I certainly went through a lot of them. As I understand it, the strikeouts are in red and the changes are in green within this document, and I think that that's how I read it. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Chair. And I just would like to add to, it wasn't all my doing this project. I want to thank our senior planner, Bruce Howarth, for putting the plan together, the changes, and for our Angie and our GIS, and Craig and Paul for helping out on some items as well. So and other staff. So it's been a collaborative effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm remiss in not saying that, but yeah, we still need someone steering the ship. And this, as I say, has been a long journey. And to you and your whole team, let's put it that way, thank you for getting us to where we are today. On 3, are there any comments on 3? Peter?
And I apologize for the confusion earlier. I didn't print this, so I've been scrolling through it and on 2 devices and trying to use this screen, and I lost my place on the agenda. And Charles, this is just I'm a little confused, and I'm not sure you're not surprised. 533 EA and 1446 all talk about public road, but I can't find a definition for public road. And I looked at the transportation section 13. So I think that might cause us some difficulty if there's not one that I couldn't, and believe me, it wasn't an exhaustive search. So if it's not a clear statement, can you maybe define what a public road is for us? Because I think most of us of my generation, we grew up with the idea of public road started off was provincial funding way back in the 80s, and now it's a road that the public uses and the township should maintain or whatever. So that may cause us some difficulties and I may have missed the definition, and I apologize for
that. Through you, Chair, we don't have definitions in our OP specifically, and your zoning bylaws will have definitions of what a street is and so forth. So you can lean to that. But in the planning context of an OP, public road would be a road under the jurisdiction of the municipality, and that is maintained at a level of service that's appropriate and for year-round travel. Now, there are some seasonal public roads. Those are slightly different, but when we talk about subdivisions, we're talking about a public road maintained year-round under the jurisdiction of the county, or it could be the province, but also a local municipality. And it's not a private road. It's not owned by the individuals or property owners. I hope that helped.
Oh, it helps me, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Fair enough. Other questions on item number 3? Well, you see the resolution there. If you're comfortable with this, let's see. I need a motion to accept the resolution, please. Peter, seconded by Brian. No further discussion. I'll call them for the vote. All those in favor? Those that are opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. Now, just to help me through a little bit here, because we've been bouncing all over the place a little bit on 4 and 2, and where are we? Is it my understanding you wish to table this?
I would, subject to Mr. Morrow, please.
Mr. Morrow, where are you? There you go. Mr. Morrow?
Chair, through to you, Councillor Emo, I believe, and I have been doing some reading. Thanks for going back to number 2. I've been doing some reading, and I believe the appropriate term would be postpone definitely would be the motion. And my recommendation is that we would postpone to the month of August 2021. The reason I say August and not July is because the Development and Property Committee does not sit in the month of July. So you can do either end. You can do June or you can do August. So that would be my recommendation, to postpone definitely to the month of August, and staff be directed to bring back information on this particular item once the service delivery reviews are completed throughout the county of Renfrew, and we have more information in which we can make a decision.
Yes, and you have to have a date on there when you postpone.
That's correct, sir.
Warden.
I'll second the motion to table.
Postpone to, what was the term you used?
Postpone definitely.
Postpone definitely.
There
Definitely.
you go.
Excuse
Okay,
me.
it's moved by Peter, seconded by the warden. Any discussion on that? Brian.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also wondering if in August, if this motion is going to be brought back. I was quite surprised to see that it was in favor of giving the power to the township when it cuts into the economies of scale. So I wonder if the planning department should look at that and say it, or are we saying do we bring it as a positive motion just to get it on the table?
All right, Mr. Morrow, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Councillor Hunt. We have a procedural issue because now we've postponed definitely the motion that was on the table. So that motion that has been postponed has to come back. I would like to go back to your previous comment. The intent of putting it on the table was for staff not to make the recommendation not to proceed, because for us it was very gray. But we wanted to put the motion on the table so there would be a full debate on the matter at County Council. So to do that, we had to bring it forward in the manner that we did. It was our opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Other on the recommendation or the motion. Have I called for the vote? All in favor? I have called for it, right? No, I haven't. Okay, sorry. I'm just.
You did it again. You did it again. So that's all.
I did it again. There you go.
That's all good.
It's carried.
It's been a very long day. Thank you.
Okay. So now we need a motion to accept the report as a whole. Sheldon, second by Dan. All in favor? Is carried. Anything under new business for the betterment of development and property? Seeing none. Nothing for closed. I need a motion to adjourn. Brian, seconded by. Seconded by. All hands go up. The warden, all in favor? We're out of here. There we go. Thank you.